Welcome back to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital, the sports tech venture capital company. On this show, I interview top sports entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives who are shaping and many times changing the sports business industry. You can subscribe to our show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our 76 Capital website. Today, my guest on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show is Lenny Currier. He's the Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Medicine at Villanova University. But we're going to talk about some incredible things that he's done in his career. He was also the athletic trainer for the Philadelphia 76ers, the Orlando Magic, and also was with the USA Olympic basketball team and a number of other places, and unbelievable people that he's worked with, worked on. I mean, it's just unbelievable, his career. So Lenny, welcome to our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show.
Thanks, Wayne. Pleasure to be here.
So excited to have you here. I mean, I think, there's so much to talk about, but the one thing I would love to start this show with is that you were the athletic trainer for the Philadelphia 76ers in Allen Iverson's second year through, I think,
the next 6 years.
The next 6 years, right, with him. And you did something really special there.
Well, he always had elbow. You know how many times he fell on the floor, got knocked to the floor? He would strike his elbow. His elbow gave him problems. And so one night I decided to try something. We had a product called compression stockinette, and you cut it in different lengths, and it had different widths. So the width would expand, but the length wouldn't. So I would have Alan tell me how long he wanted, where it had to start and where it had to end. So he tried it one night for compression. It was for medicinal purposes. And he had a great scoring night and decided that he wanted to keep wearing it. And so therefore he did. And we had it in the color black. We had it in the color white usually. And then it morphed into a company beginning to make them for us. But it started out just with a standard athletic training room product that worked wonders, I think.
That's unbelievable. So was it compression?
Mm-hmm.
Did it also have anything for him to, when he was hit his elbow on the ground?
No,
or it was all compression?
Didn't add any additional padding. I think the compression alone just felt good. And some people like that, others don't, but he did, and it seemed to help him. And then when he continued to have big scoring nights, he got more attached to it, I believe.
And now it's like a fashion trend in a way.
Standard body wear.
Well, it's interesting. So Jack from our team here at 76, found a stat that now over 65% of the league, at least like back in like 2016, 65% of the league was wearing an arm sleeve, and it was all from Alan and all from you.
Well, it started with me just slipping it on his arm, but as you know, Alan was such an iconic figure in sports then, particularly, of course, the NBA, but people wanted to follow Alan's lead.
Well, let's talk about that Sixers team that you were part of back then. The coach was Larry Brown at the time, right? Yeah. And you were the trainer sitting in that first seat on the bench.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the first seat.
The first seat. I like that.
Why do athletic trainers sit in that first seat, and what's the responsibility once you're in that seat?
Well, during my era, and I don't know if it still is today, all of the athletic trainers were responsible for keeping a stat sheet where each team's lineup was on. We'd have a new sheet for every game, of course. We would put the names of the three officials so we could refer to them if we needed to. And then we had the running number of fouls, and we had another section for timeouts. And so you just learned how to navigate it to help your coaching staff to potentially take a timeout if their next mandatory timeout was going to be theirs. And we needed a timeout, we'd say, okay, you get the next timeout, go now. And then, when you come late into a period and there may be, you may have a foul to give. You let the bench know that the players know you have a foul to give. So it keeps you very engaged in the game. And it was a lot of fun. I would run back and forth to the scorer to make sure I was accurate, because I didn't want to, make a mistake in that regard. But it kept you very involved in the game, and it was just a responsibility that had always been given to the athletic trainers. And I think it was because the time when I came in the league with the Orlando Magic, we had a head coach and one assistant coach and me. That was the front of the bench. Three people.
Now, that's kind of crazy. I mean, you think about today's NBA staffs. I mean, they have rows of coaches behind the bench. But back then, 3.
Two, or you might have 2 assistant coaches.
2 assistants. Okay.
Sometimes one of our scouts would be on the road and he'd meet us in a city and sit on the bench with us. So then we'd have all 3 coaches on the bench plus myself. So the league has grown and the benches have grown with it. But, we were able to roll a team out 82 nights a year.
Well, and you had a lot of responsibilities as, kind of head athletic trainer, right? I guess was the title, but there was so much more that you did. What were some of the other things that you had to do in the NBA? Whether that was, we're going to go back to the Magic and talk about some of that and talk about the Sixers, but just in general, or a lot of the things that it was additional than just maybe taping ankles and putting some ice on guys.
Well, I came out of professional baseball where it was very common for the athletic trainer at the minor league level to be the athletic trainer, the travel coordinator, the equipment manager, and the strength coach. So I assumed basically those same roles when I came into the NBA. Fortunately, I did have...
Do they pay you for all those things?
One flat rate. And then we had, but I had a really good equipment manager at home, and he didn't always travel with me. But on the road, the host team would be responsible for doing your laundry, unless you were getting ready on a bus after the game to go to another city. And then you'd contact the city you were going to, say, by the way, I need laundry done when we get into town. So it was just entirely different. It was fun. I mean, it just, you had responsibility, but it just, it felt so normal, just felt so. And then our staff began to grow. We then hired a strength coach. Our equipment manager became full-time, travel all the time. So it took some of those responsibilities. But as far as the travel coordinating, the athletic trainers were, booking all the flights, all the hotels, and all the buses. So, you had to stay on your toes to make sure that you had everything in order.
Well, and booking flights then was
commercial air travel. So they always told us buy as many first class seats as you can, because the players in their collective bargaining agreement got first class travel. So I would typically try to get the entire first class cabin, and then it went by seniority. If there weren't enough seats, then it went by seniority. And but I think one of the most important things that we had to do, and one of the older trainers taught me, that carry an extra bag of uniforms on the plane with you, because if you get to a city and you've lost your luggage, your uniform bag is missing, you can still, by virtue of the fact you're carrying an extra set on the plane with you, you have it with you. And then the host team would give you socks and T-shirts or whatever you needed. But and I used to hand the players their bundled gear, their warm-up jacket and pants and uniform as they were getting on the bus to go to the airport. And then they carried on the plane themselves. So a little different than today, I suppose, but it was just the way we did it. And ironically enough,
you carried in like a
duffel bag.
Louis Vuitton.
No, not Louis Vuitton. No, probably Nike or
Nike.
Adidas, one of those. Or back then it was And One. Oh no, who was it? I can't think of the company I want to remember. But
you had Reebok. Especially when you had Shaq, right?
Yeah, but this was all pre-Shaq. And then Michael Jordan's first time into Orlando, his number 23 jersey somehow went missing between the morning shoot around and the evening tip off.
And you have no idea how that happened.
No idea. It's the other side of the building.
Okay, good.
But he wore number 12. That was the jersey they had available for him to wear, and that was the only night he ever wore number 12. And
that's unbelievable. So when the Bulls played the Magic that night, he was wearing 12.
Number 12.
Amazing.
Got a great photo of it.
That's incredible.
But that was a different NBA, and today it's just grown by leaps and bounds. But once Shaquille arrived in Orlando, then we started flying by charter.
And so what year did you become the trainer?
1989 was the first year of the team, and then I stayed there up through the 97 season, and then came to Philadelphia for the 97 through 2003. And
But going back to the Orlando Magic, right?
Mhm.
They're a brand new team, and you eventually you were there, and when the team drafted Shaq, drafted Penny, and then
Traded for Penny.
traded. Oh, that's right.
Traded for him. Drafted Chris Webber, and then flip-flopped him with us Golden State.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But we got him. That's
See, the
what we
two of
wanted.
them together, which you made a heck of a run.
Oh, we did. We put together a really nice team. Horace Grant was real important. He was a free agent we signed. We had a lot of depth. We had homegrown players, Nick Anderson and Dennis Scott, and then we had developed Donald Royal and Anthony Bowie, and we had a nice team. And we played hard. We just ran up against the defending champions, the Houston Rockets, and just couldn't handle them, when it came to the finish line. But getting to that point was really exciting. The first series on the playoffs was against Boston. It was 3 out of 5. It wasn't 4 out of 7. So we won opening night by about 48 points, I think. And then the next night they beat us, and we were in shock. So we had to go to Boston to play the next 2 games and hopefully survive it. And we were down by 5 with about 1:10 to go at the Boston Garden, and then ran off 8 consecutive points to close out game 3. And that really put us over where we needed to be. And then we closed them out in the next game, which was game 4. But we had practiced at Harvard in between games, and it was quite the sight to see Shaq, on Harvard's campus. And he was Shaq on Harvard. And it was really a lot of fun.
What was it like working with Shaq and Penny one-on-one those days? I mean, you had those guys, you're there, you're taking care of their bodies, trying to help them get back on the court after each game. I mean,
they were both really, really dedicated players. Shaq wanted to play every night. And if he just didn't have the energy for practice the next day, he'd just, he'd tell the coach, look, I just don't have anything left today from last night's game. Penny was, he was amazing to watch until he started to develop knee problems. He was really special. And, Shaquille, what can you say? He was, a force, from the moment, but he was the league then. He was right up there with the other big names. And no one was quite like him, and we were thankful he was ours.
I mean, how did you had to make sure that he was physically okay to get out there every day, right? I mean,
primarily my biggest, concern with him was just, if he needed a, massage on his calves or something just to get his legs stimulated a little bit. But, he was, he let me tape him with, different brands of tape, put together a little combination on that massive appendage, and he was great. I truly enjoyed being with him every single day.
It's incredible. I mean, to think about someone that size who played so hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could just see it. I mean, dripping with sweat every single game.
It was a big man league, because he went up against Patrick Ewing a lot. Alonzo Mourning. And then there were some big centers out west, of course, Elijah Wan and some of the others. But there was a lot of play in the paint back then. A lot of big men. I mean, you put the ball into Shaq in the paint, and he turned around and just power slam it. And it was really fun to watch because we had the entire package with every position. I think the league is played a little differently now with so much outside shooting, but it was fun to watch.
But as a trainer, you're obviously it's their physical piece of that you want to want. But then also, how much were you involved with from a hydration perspective or what they ate? I mean, were you involved in those kind of conversations
somewhat
back then, or is it more of a newer thing?
It's probably grown by leaps and bounds since that time. That was 30 plus years ago. We had a nutrition consultant that helped us each year. We didn't have a dietitian with us every day. We didn't have meals being prepared every day. I think that happens a lot now.
You're probably seeing that even at the college level now as well.
Yes. But and hydration's always been a focus. You can see how much they perspire. The good thing about basketball players is the sweat can evaporate easier because they're not covered with equipment or headgear. So they don't have as much difficulty rehydrating or staying, I think hydrated and cool enough, if you will. But and we poured all the Gatorade we could in them and all the water they could tolerate. But they were really pretty easy to take care of, when you really come down to it.
And so, after the Magic, you came to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Brown's the coach. Allen Iverson's in his second year.
Mm-hmm.
And the team just really started to gel. They brought in some new people. Talk about what it was like to be in Philly those years and some of the ways that you were involved.
Well, we didn't make the playoffs Allen's second year or Larry's first year. We were really close and just didn't get there. I can still remember our first playoff game when Allen played in his first playoff game at Indiana. And we lost. And in the post-game press conference, he literally said, "I'm ready to play another game right now." And that really speaks to his competitiveness. He wanted to play. He suffered a lot of injuries and been well chronicled. He played a hard game because he was, going in there with the big guys and being knocked around and knocked to the floor a lot. He took a lot of punishment. And yet nothing was going to stop him from playing because he just loved the competition. And I was, awestruck by it at times, how he would go out there and play. And as you know, you were in the building some of those nights when he just put it on, on the roof was coming off when he cupped his ear to the crowd. I mean, he knew how to play to the crowd.
Oh my God.
And the crowd was phenomenal. When we were, as you recall, 20,000 a night, it was pretty special. And then when we won Game 7 at home against Milwaukee to advance, and the Toronto game, even before that, Vince Carter missing the shot from the corner. And then we played Milwaukee after that, won 7 games with them, and then got to the final and played the Lakers. And best memory of that, of course, is Game 1 when Allen made his corner jumper in overtime and Tyrone Lue got in the way, so we stepped over him.
That was wild.
That was something.
I mean, look, and Allen, you got to spend so much time with him. Now it's the practice quote, and people talk about that. But that team, Allen himself. I mean, how hard did those guys work to get to where
they had to? They weren't probably. I mean, the Lakers, bench was, probably a number of those guys could have started. Larry did a wonderful job coaching. I mean, that was, probably his best coaching, for us, because, the players that we put in there, just everybody did their job. Eric Snow, Aaron McKee, George Lynch, Tyrone Hill, everybody knew they had a role to play. It was a real role-playing team. And of course, I think the trade that brought Dikembe was the real key part that put us over the top. Very special teammate, very special person. And having him in that lineup, and he and Allen were very close from their Georgetown days. So that everything just clicked once Dikembe arrived. And yet we had already won. I think we were like 41-10 at the break. We were really playing great. And Theo Radcliffe was playing well, but he did break his wrist. And then getting Dikembe just made everything happen after that. Got us to the final.
And you talked about him being a special person. What were some of the things that some of the interactions that you had with Dikembe, who unfortunately is not with us anymore, which is so sad.
Yeah, he was just a special person, and he was so connected. We used to kid him all. He'd be in to get his ankles taped, and the phone would ring. We'd say, "Who's that? Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell? Who are you talking to?" And he was, he had all those people on speed dial. He really did. He was, and he was very close to the front office of the league. The league really built its, African, development programs, with his assistance. I think it's well chronicled the money he donated to build hospitals in his native country, and he was just so much fun. He had an amazing smile. He had that, very rich, deep voice, and he was just he was full of life, and always wore a coat and tie home and away. He was an ambassador, and he was absolutely when he came to us from Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks trainer Wally Blaze called me and he said, every team should have Dikembe for a year just to experience how wonderful it is to have him on your team. And he was absolutely right.
How many years were you with him?
Gosh, I guess it would have been what? That was probably 3.
Okay.
I think 3 years. Yeah. But enjoyed every minute of it.
Amazing. And then you also had, I mean, we could just go on with all the incredible experiences and people that you've been around, but also at the same time you were involved with the USA basketball, traveled the world with them and the different players on that team and different coaches. I mean, that must have been an amazing experience.
It was really fun. In 1998, the team had to qualify for the Olympics, which were going to be in Sydney, Australia in 2000. But in 1998, the players and owners locked out, and so we couldn't have NBA players on the team. So USA Basketball had to kind of scour, for players all over the world, players that were in Europe, that were American players, of course. So we built a roster, and we went over to play in the World Championships in Athens, Greece, with stops in Monte Carlo and Rome on the way.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. And then at the World Championships, we lost to Russia in, I think, the semifinal game, and then had to play for the bronze medal, which we won. But then because they had not yet qualified for the 2000 Olympics, they had to go to Olympic qualifying tournament the following year, 99, and the entire event was in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we took the dream team. We took Jason Kidd and Gary Payton and Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett. And Elton Brand was on that team. Tom Gugliotta. We had a wonderful team. Alan Houston, Steve Smith. I'm trying to remember the picture in my office. And so it was just a great team. We, had no trouble getting through that tournament. And we won 10 games out of 10. And then that team then qualified to go to the Olympics in 2000 in Sydney. And the team won the gold medal. I didn't get to make the trip.
But you were sitting in that first seat all that, right?
I was. Well, actually, myself and Keith Jones from the Houston Rockets, we shared the space.
And the head coach was
Rudy Tomjanovich, and when we went to Puerto Rico, Larry Brown actually took over because Rudy had become ill.
Got it. Wow. Amazing.
It was fun.
I mean, were there certain, were there any coaches or players that really sort of stand out in your mind? I mean, you talked about Allen, you talked about Dikembe, Larry Brown. I mean, there's Matty Gukas was the coach, right?
Yes, Matty's my first pro coach. Wonderful man. We hit it off really well right from the beginning when I went to Orlando to interview, and we just had a wonderful time. I think the frustration of losing a lot as an expansion team was tough. But he was such a wonderful guy. And we actually used to go out to dinner a lot because we'd go into a city the night before and we'd, go out to eat. All the broadcasters, all the support staff would go together with the coaches. And we had a wonderful time and just didn't win enough until Shaquille arrived, and then it all got better.
Something about the players that helps, right?
Yeah, you got to have the horses, as they say.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, also just to think about how much time you as the trainer, and the coaches spent together. So they're game planning, they're working together, you're traveling, you're always together. Is that I wonder if that's still as prevalent as it was because of all the coaches and all that kind of stuff. Whereas it's kind of like, the trainers and the health and wellness over here and the coaches over here.
Not sure how much it's changed. And I go back to my minor league baseball days for the Dodgers team out of Albuquerque. I had the same manager for 4 years, Terry Collins, one of my favorite people of all time, one of the great. And we had great pitching coach, Dave Wallace, and another great pitching coach in Brent Strom, a couple of really great hitting coaches. The Pacific Coast League was so much fun. And you're seeing guys that are hoping for their chance to go to the big leagues. And it's an interesting roster when you have players who have never been to the big leagues. Then you have players who have been to the big leagues and are trying to get back. And then, unfortunately, there are players who kind of level out at AAA and never get back and never get to the big leagues. but absolutely, loved working, with the baseball teams and going to spring training. The Dodgers had a very, beautiful spring training site. And Sandy Koufax used to come by, and
Wow.
Sandy used to visit us on the road. He loved coming to be with the Albuquerque team. He was very close to Terry Collins and Dave Wallace. So Sandy spent a lot of time with us, and great story. My brother was out to visit with me in Albuquerque, and he sat behind home plate with Sandy Koufax for 9 innings, and they never talked about baseball. For 9 innings, they talked about everything but, and my brother said it was one of the most enjoyable nights he ever had. And a lot of people would come by and ask for autographs, and Sandy obliged, but then he'd go right back to talking about driving Carroll Shelby's test cars out on the Long Beach airport runways. And my brother was very into cars, so they just clicked. But I thought that was a pretty special story to hear about such a great, iconic athlete like Sandy.
Yeah, it's such a special man. I remember a story. I had the opportunity to go to the White House when President Obama was the president, and they were honoring Sandy Koufax.
Wow.
And a few other people, I think that day. And I remember telling my dad the story about, I said, I met Sandy Koufax today. It was unbelievable. And I started talking. My dad said, "Why are you at the White House?" And I said, "Yeah, but Sandy Koufax. Let me tell you about this." He was. I mean, again, as you said, so personal.
Just wonderful. We were in the Orlando airport for a flight to Boston, game day travel, early in the morning, and I was, getting all the tickets ready for the team to get on the plane, and Sandy came by.
Wow.
Said, "How you doing, Lenny?" I said, "Gee, Sandy, how are you?" And I said, "Where are you headed?" He said, "We're going to Boston." He was with his wife. He said they were going to go to the art museum. They had a Renoir exhibit or something he wanted to see. And I said, "Well, we're playing the Celtics." And I said, "Would you like to go?" He said, "You know what? I've never been to the Boston Garden." So I left 2 tickets for Sandy Koufax. I thought, wow, that was pretty special for me.
That's amazing.
That I could leave tickets for Sandy Koufax. But he was wonderful. I mean, he, like I said, he loved to come to Albuquerque or meet us on the road. And he liked being around the minor league players a lot. I remember him telling a story of when he knew he had it when he was warming up with the bullpen. And as this legend goes, he would come into the dugout and tell the guys, "Just get 1 run today, boys. That's all you need." Because he knew his stuff was that good that he was going to shut out the opponent.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, he was a basketball player, He went to the University of Cincinnati to play basketball.
I didn't know
Out of Brooklyn. Yeah.
Wow.
And then he switched his interest to baseball. But he was a basketball player. He had long arms and big hands, I can tell you.
Say, did he shoot left-handed?
I don't know. I never asked him.
It's one of the things that, you see this more than anything. I mean, I was, really fascinated with so many NBA players that would write with their left hand, but shot with their right.
Interesting.
Is that something that you saw over the years? I mean, like Larry Bird and some of the other guys, that's their.
No, I couldn't really say that I did. Funny story too. We went into Boston one time, and my brother would always meet me when we'd come to Boston. And so he came in, and he's helping me unpack. And then he went out to the court, and Larry Bird was shooting all by himself. 2 hours before the game. So my brother walked out on the court and said, "Hey, Larry, can I shag for you?" He said, "Sure." So he shagged for Larry Bird for the next hour. And I think that could never happen today. Someone could walk out there, and there's more people working that, but back then this would have been probably 1990.
Right.
Larry was, more than happy to have someone shag for him, and my brother was more than happy to oblige. So it's a great story.
Great story.
Yeah, great story.
So now you're at Villanova University as the trainer there, and are you working solely with the lacrosse team or across all the?
Well, I have overseen the department for 22 years, and I've been the athletic trainer with the lacrosse team for 16. So I'm heading into my 17th year with lacrosse. It's just a wonderful sport. Again, never played it, but it's, for me, and my favorite sport is hockey. And so for me, watching hockey on grass. A lot of similarities, but the kids are great. We have a wonderful program. Head coach Mike Corrado is He's been there, I think, 20 years as the head coach. He's a Villanova Hall of Famer from his playing days there. Just a great program, and the kids are wonderful. We get kids from all over the country. We have more California kids now, I think, than Long Island, which never would have imagined. But there's just a nice camaraderie among the group. We have a lot of fun. Bus travel is fun with the lacrosse team. So it's really just a joy to be around that age group. It's the best part of my day when I leave the desk and all the administrative responsibility and I walk out into the stadium and watch practice. It's wonderful.
Well, have you seen the shift that's kind of occurring right now, the overall professionalization of college sports? And you were on the college side, or on this pro side for so many years. Now seeing what's happening with college sports, they must be leaning on some of your experience.
I think the biggest thing is everybody's just wondering what's going to happen. How's this all going to play out? And I think that it's going to take a little time for it to all be digested, and then figure out, next steps and what's the best pathway to, continuing to be successful. It's just so different to think of it this way, but it's the new reality. And college basketball is extraordinarily popular. They're expanding the field again, I believe. So and the Big East is a great league to be associated with. It's a basketball league, and their tournament at MSG is really special, as you probably know. And so I think that, obviously at Villanova, we rest a lot of the success on basketball. Basketball is, and we have a new coach, new program running there. So, our hopes are high, of course, to do, get back in the top of the Big East and be in the NCAA tournament.
So how are you training this next generation of trainers?
Well, their educational process is a little bit different than what I went through a long time ago. I loved, the way we were trained back in my generation, which was in the 70s. A lot of hands-on opportunities that I don't think are afforded students today because we didn't have large staffs. I went to Arizona State, and we only had 3 full-time athletic trainers. I had 14 full-time athletic trainers at Villanova.
Wow. And
we had, we were just joining the Pac-10. So we had, major football. We were coming off a national championship in baseball when I got there, and in track. And then I had the good fortune of, in my second year, being assigned to work with the baseball team. And it was the moment that I'll never forget when they told me to, go out to baseball today and every day from now on. And we had just a tremendous program, and it really came together. In my senior year, we won the national championship, won the College World Series. And every single player, we only had a 23-man roster. Today, the rosters were about 35. We had 23 players. Everyone played at least minor league. They all played professionally. And I think we had 5 that made it to the big leagues. And that was quite a team. And we went into Omaha, Nebraska, ranked number 1 in the country. And on opening night, we just exploded and served notice that everyone else was playing for second. And we lost 1 game, lost in 14 innings to Oklahoma State, and then came back and won 2. I think we had to win 2 straight or 3 straight to close it out, and it was really special. And unfortunately, Arizona State hasn't won a national championship since, but
they need you back, I guess, right?
It was. I was so lucky to be with that group, and we have a nice. We had a little gathering 3 years ago to celebrate the team after 41 years, and I went out for that. And we've since been on a nice text messaging thread that we, keep in touch with each other that way, and it's just a great time.
Well, I was going to ask you that. I mean, were there certain players that you've stayed in touch with, or coaches? Because I mean, you got to spend a lot of just one-on-one time with the players. You got to just travel with them, work with them, for extended periods of time.
Primarily when I was in the NBA and I would go into a city, occasionally someone would holler at me from the seats, and it was, someone that I knew from, I got a defensive back from the University of Arizona where I went to grad school. He became a Dallas policeman. So one night I walked out and there he was standing there. And we had a nice chat. And then one of my teammates from Arizona State came to a game in Seattle one night, and I got to see him. And then I ran into various, college athletes that I knew over the years. But I tried to stay in touch with people over these long years. Thank goodness for cell phones and text messaging. So I typically send a lot of text messages on Christmas, Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe New Year's.
You've sent me some really nice ones. Thank you.
On holidays, Easter and Father's Day, Mother's Day, I like to send out messages. And it's funny, I keep in touch with a lot of lacrosse players that have gone through the program in the 16 years I've been there. And they all tell me how they look forward to hearing from me that way. And it keeps them, connected to the program. And it's a simple and easy thing to do. But I do communicate with a lot of people because I want to keep my relationships fresh as much as I can. And I've gotten to know a lot of hockey executives over the years, and so I try to keep in touch there. And I took my son to the Flyers draft party the other night, which was wonderful down in Atlantic City, and got a chance to take a picture of my son with Rick Tocchet and Jim Jackson, the play-by-play voice, and Steve Coates, and now a retired broadcaster. So fun event. And so my son loves hockey. And so we try to stay connected that way. And then my daughter sings the national anthem and has done, I think in the vicinity of 75 major league events now. And so it's really been fun to, kind of ride along her coattails to, Fenway Park, Madison Square Garden, and a lot of places in between. So it's been, really enjoyable.
Well, as we start to wind down here on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show, it's been amazing having you on the show, Lenny. Thank you so much for coming here, being on the show with us. I mean, are there any sort of tips or tricks that you could share with our audience that have enabled you to have the career that you've had and are still having, now at Villanova?
I honestly think that professional networking, getting to know everybody that you can, introduce yourself to people, make sure that you make good eye contact and you talk to them and find a way to begin a conversation. And I've been very blessed with, I guess, the ability to do that. And I'm not afraid to approach people, respectfully. And so one night when I came out for a game in Orlando, Johnny Unitas was sitting behind the bench, and I almost fell all over the chairs trying to get to him so I could shake his hand. And that was Johnny Unitas, from my youth. And so, but I've always found, people like to be recognized. They like to shake hands, and the hockey community is, I think, the one I've found to be the most comfortable, in those settings. They're just, but I have nothing but, great things to say about every place I've been, everywhere the people I've been with. I've been the lucky one, and I'm going to keep doing it for a couple of more years, I hope. And thankfully, I've been at a wonderful university for 22 years, and very happy to be, living in the Philadelphia area. It's a sports hotbed, as you know. Love our teams here, and I'm no different.
Well, it's amazing what's happening with the teams in Philadelphia, including Villanova. We recently just had the athletic director of Temple University at one of our events, and all the things that are going on there with that university, with all the professional teams, the World Cup coming here, the All-Star game coming here, the Women's World. Everything you can imagine. WNBA team just announced, here
today.
It's coming to Philadelphia. So a lot of things happening. And
it's a great place to live. I'm very happy. When I was, in high school, I actually came to Philadelphia and saw a weekend series between the Phillies and the Astros at Connie Mack Stadium.
Well, that's pretty special.
That was special. I got to see my favorite player, Richie Allen. He was Richie Allen then, and he was my favorite. And years went by, and I did get a chance to meet him. and he was my guy in the mid '60s. So maybe I was destined to live in Philadelphia after that.
That's incredible. I mean, the amount of people that you've met, the amount of people that you've worked with, touched, helped over the years is really incredible. And you're continuing to do that now at Villanova University. So congrats on everything you've done so far.
Yeah.
And we'll have to come back for, tell us what other things you've done.
Well, I've been the lucky one. I've been the one that's, had the opportunities, and I feel like I'm the lucky one.
Well, it's been awesome having Lenny Currier as our guest on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. Lenny, again, thank you for coming in, and we look forward to having you back in the future.
Thanks, Wayne. My pleasure.
On behalf of the entire 76 Capital team, thank you for joining us for this edition of our Sports Leadership Show. Please remember to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast network or on the 76 Capital website. You can also explore the hundreds of episodes we've produced over the past several years on those same networks. And as always, go out there and make it happen.